A Better You podcast is hosted by myself, Dr. Clifford Yun, physical therapist. We'll be talking about techniques to improve your mental and physical health. The ideas and topics discussed are based upon the experiences and research of myself and my guests. They do not replace the personal consultation of a trained clinician. If you or someone you know is having a mental or physical health problem, you should consult an appropriately certified clinician. Hi, and welcome to the A Better You podcast. Thank you for joining us this week. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's a kind of a broad subject matter, but a very important matter that we will talk about throughout this season and probably seasons to come, hopefully, about pain. Pain itself is something that is kind of a mandatory thing to start the relationship with physical therapists, but physical therapy is only one part of the bigger understanding of how do we work with pain, how do we understand pain, how do we work around pain, or do we work around pain? So this week's guest is someone that you wouldn't think I'd be talking to initially, but when we think about it, he's definitely qualified. His name is Devon Williams. He is a mixed martial artist. He is a personal trainer, and he has a fantastic profile that you will learn about that has him having the particular experience to talk to us about pain. So without further ado, this is our fourth episode of the ABY, A Better You podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and here's Devon Williams. So on this episode of the ABY, A Better You podcast, we are going to talk with a local fitness and health talent in the area for the Philadelphia area, my new adopted home. This is Devon Williams. I'm going to let Devon introduce himself and tell us a little about himself.
Thanks for having me on. Number one, really appreciate you reaching out. Just to give a little background myself, I started training. I come from a family of fighters. So my mother competed in judo and full contact karate, not like the YMCA stuff, like straight kickboxing. Savage, my dad. Yeah, yeah, she was hard to deal with growing up. I couldn't do anything with her. I couldn't just be like, oh, I'm bigger than you now. I got flipped on my head a couple times. And she beat up one of my jujitsu instructors when I was 17. So that was an experience. And my father boxed and kickbox. My uncles did military combat training. All my cousins in North Carolina are like all ranked nationally ranked D1 guys in wrestling. So I just come from a family of just head crackers. So I started training when I was around 6. My first competition when I was 7, and I'm 27 now, and I haven't stopped. So that's kind of how I got into it. I was kind of bred into head cracking, which is a lot of the stories of the better talents, especially in Philadelphia. Is they normally come from a lineage of fighters, whether it be their uncle's father, etc.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
That's
Which they were all like,
yeah, so it seems it's like it's one of those things that it's unavoidable. It's like it's not something that you think about becoming. It's just kind of it's in you. It is who you are. It is definitely defined by your lineage for sure. And that's a big thing, knowing about fighting it as far as like as a sport, as a skill set. Whether it's a boxer and or any martial arts, it tends to be, not always, but tends to be passed down. There's something, doesn't just magically appear that you're a fighter, right? There's something
yeah.
that influences you.
Normally, for the people that just try to get into it later, it does not go very well.
Yeah, like there's no way you're gonna see my 38-year-old body going, maybe today's the day.
Some people try it. Some people try it.
Learn, but that's not gonna match up to someone who's got so much like you rack that experience in, which goes with any field, right? Your years of experience.
Harsh realities I have to explain because I also am a trainer. I had the pleasure of being groomed to be a trainer from my trainer, and as his career went along and he started moving into his retirement years, he elevated me to head coach of my gym, which was a big honor, but a huge responsibility. That means that I got a bunch of guys who are more experienced than me. Like they were pro athletes at the time. I have a bunch of younger guys coming in, and I'm responsible for all of them. And one of the main things that I have to explain to parents specifically, like adults kind of get it. They kind of get like how you just said. It's like you kind of come in like, I'm a little later on in life. I probably shouldn't be doing it, but if I wind up getting good and I can get one or two fights just to tell my kids about it, that's fine.
Yeah.
When parents bring their 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds to me, and this is going to lead into, what we wanted to talk about in this podcast, is that I have to be honest with them. Do you want your child to learn the craft, or do you want them to become a competitor? Because those are two different things. When you sign up to be a competitor, they always imagine like the glories, like you get, quickest way to, multis of millions of dollars. You get to be a star athlete, all those things. Like that is for the 1% of fighters. The 1% of fighters. The rest of it, even if you're like a good guy, just like kind of top 10, but not top 3, it's hard. You don't get to eat what you want to eat because you got to cut weight all the time. You can't party like how you want to party. You don't get to have the home relationship that you want to have because it's a very selfish sport, and you're going through pain all the time because you're trying to outwork that person that's next to you. And that's just the base of it. There's no real like glory in this unless it's amongst your peers, because base spectators are going to switch with whoever's hot at the moment. The promoters don't care as long as you're making money. So the only people you're competing for is your peers, and your peers, you can be a normal gym guy who just happens to be good enough to hang it with pros, and we'll all talk about you. It's not what people think it is, and you're subjecting your child to the business of head trauma. That's what this is. We're in the business of head trauma. We're trying to inflict head trauma, and we're trying to avoid it. And we always don't get the latter. A lot of times it happens to us, and in the process, we break the rest of our bodies down. You're going to entrust your baby with me, your kid with me. I'm going to do everything I can, but understand the risk. You signing them up for the business of head trauma. It's one thing I like to be open with, just straight up front, because it's not a glory.
That all opens up a whole nother area that I was wondering about too, before we even had this conversation, actually. So I'm glad you're approaching that. So for our listeners, for our viewers on the video simulcast here, you can kind of begin to see why I wanted Devon on this, because what I wanted to talk about in general with this podcast, this is a huge topic in general when it comes to physical therapy, is pain, right? And we know that pain isn't very one-dimensional. It isn't like like a little paper cut, like ouch, that's pain, that's it. Pain tends to be a lot more, if anything, more four-dimensional. There is a psychological component. There's the influence of your peers around you, your family, everything. Maybe if you're working, it's your work as well as the pain. And those constructs that really impose upon you and how that can affect you. And who could better understand that than someone who has fought professionally, who has come from, now I know, a lineage of fighters, and now who also trains fighters, and thankfully, I gotta say thank you, respectfully, teaches people and tells people outright that this is not for everyone, and that the glorification of fighting, and the reason we can all respectfully watch it, but is that it's not just that. These people work really hard to get where they're gonna get, and you're not always gonna have that Mayweather backing behind you. That guy worked hard. He ain't snacking down 20 Big Macs a day. He's working hard doing something else. He's probably not eating the things he wants to eat because he knows he has to keep it, not only his body, he also has to keep his image. He has to keep everything, all that's piling in on top of daily pain, regular pain. So I think that's a very important psychological fact to be talking about. So let's get into a little bit more centered concept or question, I guess. As a mixed martial artist, as a fighter overall, what would you define? We have certain relationships with pain. What do you define your relationship as pain is, as best as you can describe it?
I can only really describe it for me and how I kind of try to instruct the people that are around me in my on my fight team. And it's just, as much as you hate it, pain is necessary for growth in this business. It's in most facets of life, pain is necessary for growth. You learn through suffering,
Yeah.
but you have to be able to put yourself in those difficult positions. You have to be able to push yourself to that very uncomfortable. You got to go to that dark place where you know that all there is pain. So mentally, when it happens in a fight, you're prepared to walk through that fire. We always compare it to when it gets rough in a fight, you got to crawl through broken glass to make it to the next round, and that's very hard for people to kind of get a concept of. But that's how me and my team look at it. It's a necessary thing. We hate it. Oh, we hate it. We're talking about just regular, just our muscles are sore, our back might be sore, our neck just might be sore from clenching and stuff. We're not even talking about injuries. That's a whole nother thing.
Right.
Injuries change the entire game. But yeah, that's kind of how we think about it.
Right. I like this. This is the understanding about pain. I think that at a basic level, we think of pain and injury, and we have to push through. Whether, and again, like you said, we have this is such a metaphor for life, that there are things that we just have to deal with. It's non-negotiable, right? And it's what you've bought into, and there's a reason for it. There's a reason for all of that. I love the quote is probably not 100% quoted correctly, but Serena Williams talks about always being sore. She's like, "There's not a day where I'm not in pain. What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about?" If anyone
Right
knows, like
now,
training, right?
I'm on fire right now. That's why I'm
Yeah.
holding my arms like this because my triceps hurt.
He's not just posing people. He's
Oh
he's,
no,
he's he's doing a little massage work on the side.
I am.
Because that's just the reality of pain. And sometimes, whether we like it or not, that pain is there for a reason, right? And it is it is beneficial in many ways to learn the pain and understand the pain and use that as a reason to do better, right? And to improve yourself. I think pain itself can be the thing that drives you away from doing something better for yourself or toward doing something better for yourself. And I think in that construct rather, we have to be thinking about what inspires you, what pushes you forward. Now, obviously, you say you come from like a line of a lineage of fighters. What else inspires you to fight? Then, what's the thing that really pushes behind you when you're at the
Oh
end of the
man, I'm gonna sound psychotic on camera.
we can always edit it out, you know what I mean?
Look, because I'm not one of those athletes that's going to kind of give you a cookie cutter answer. That's going to be like, oh, it's because of my family or because of honor or because of this.
Yeah, yeah.
Quite honestly, and I feel most fighters will admit this, we try to convince ourselves not to fight a lot of times because it's so hard. Like the reality of it is so hard. It's like every day we have to train knowing someone else is training to try to kill us, especially when you're successful, because now they're trying to kill us on TV. This is even worse. So everyone has to find that reason. My reason is this, and again, I don't want to sound psychotic. I don't want to sound psychotic. At the end of the day, I need to know who would win. That's it. There is no, my thing is if me and another athlete were in like a doomsday situation and it's the piece of meat and that's the last thing we can get to survive, who gets the bone? I need to know who gets it. Like that's all it is. It's not about, for me, it's not about the fans, even though I love my fans. Please keep buying my tickets. I love my fans. I'm not saying I don't care about y'all. It's not even so much about the glory of my peers. It's I need to know, and maybe this is just like some psycho alpha male thing. I need to know, like, if me and this person were locked in, who's going to grind it out harder? Who's going to be able to win that fight? I just need to know. Even if it's me losing, I just need to know.
Right, Right. I know. I like this concept because I think you do have to kind of pare things down. There's always this kind of greater meaning, right?
Hmm.
If you want to really reflect upon it and have that kind of mindfulness for that. But at the end of the day, once you get into that ring, that's it.
It's
And
just me and
you have to be able to shut that noise out and just perform really. And that's a good perspective for all. Again, another life lesson that you can find from the ring. Um, Now, what else I want to talk about? So I think this is another good thing to talk about too. In relation to fighting and training, and at the end of the day, you just that's your mindset. You're in there. That's what you got to do. But doubt can creep in. Like you said, like, I don't want to do that. And as a trainer too, I think this is something you probably see a lot. Just not even outside from the people who are trying to be fighters, but just trying to get healthier. Um, as doubt sets in, what's something that you advise your clients and your fighters as doubt sets in? What's the thing that you see tends to help, or you give advice for to kind of remove that doubt about what they're doing at the moment, or the fight ahead, or even mainly, I think usually I would say it's something that's going on when you're training someone and you can see the
yeah.
doubt, something's messing with their head.
So it's a little different. Like if I'm training someone to be in shape. So I'm a specifically speak on fighters in this scenario.
Sure.
Um, every every experienced coach knows a way to keep their fighter mentally healthy in terms of their ability. Because one of the things that happens is when you're training with a team, we're all getting better. So you don't really feel the growth, especially if you're one of the younger members or newer members on a team, you don't feel the growth. So normally I have like I call a feed day where I'll get like a guy who is around where that particular student or fighter was when they first came. So if you were like maybe a B level amateur when you first came, and I've seen you come up to a solid pro guy, you don't feel that because you're getting your ass kicked every day. I'll put you in with a guy who used to be your equal and you'll feel the difference. But sometimes that's not enough. The one thing, and this comes from Corey Anderson on the JRE thing, and I had so many ways of saying it, but he summarized it so quick. It only lasts so long, and it comes in two ways. This feeling of the pain, this feeling of like the hardness. Typically speaking, our careers are very short, especially if you get out healthy. You wanna make it very short. If a kid gets in at 20 and that's when he starts to make his run, generally they retire around 30 to 33. It's not even a 15-year career span. I'm saying so no matter how bad it is, you only have this small window of time to do everything you need to do. So you don't have time to worry about doubt. You don't even have time to worry about the pain. All you got to do is like just nose to the ground, grind as hard as you possibly can because you only get 10 to 13 years average if you're lucky. If you're successful. If you're getting beat up, then your career is going to be even shorter than that, especially on my team because I'm going to force you to retire. I'm not going to let you just keep getting beat up. Seriously, I'm not. But it's like it just only lasts so long. You don't have time to do it. It's not like a thing where you have this long-standing career. I can grind now and 20 years later, it's like, no, this is it. After 33 in the fight world is ancient. You're an old man. I'll give a perfect example for anyone listening. Jose Aldo is considered to be like one of the most legendary 145 pounders in MMA. He's 33. People don't realize that he's only 33. He's had an entire illustrious career from 20 to 33. And that's it. And now he looks like he needs to retire. That's one of the best guys who had one of the best careers ever.
Yeah, I agree. Like I feel like like correct me if I'm wrong. Like when UFC got the first like 1 or 2 seasons of really being in your face, UFC, being more mainstream, and you see that these guys that they didn't just start fighting. I mean, they've been in the circuit for a long time. Like Chuck Liddell, when more people understood who Chuck Liddell was, he was already like kicking that door of retirement. He was very close to it, right? Already by then. And people don't under they see that as maybe the first experience of what MMA fighting and fighting competitively is. But they understand that that's not normal. that's
It's not normal at all. It's
yeah,
not normal at all.
yeah. Um, what was there's something that I was just thinking about when you're talking about this, and oh yeah, so yes, you have to be realistic when it comes to this career choice, and you have to stay focused, and focus is such a huge part of physical training and having a better mindset of your task at hand, and obviously I think some part of that has to be your circle, right? The people around you. Are there times as a coach, and even as yourself, that you have to shut off those influences around you that can pull you to the wrong way? Do you
Every person,
every person?
every person, because they don't even understand like what the distractions are. Like we just said, it's so long. So you can have a successful, a circle. I said a successful circle.
Need another
A
coffee,
circle
man.
of people that love you. Yeah, people that love you and care about you and want the best for you. But one of the big problems is, like I said, this is a very selfish sport. You have to understand again, your time is finite. So you have to give up a lot of things, that's the reality of it. So a lot of people in the circle, no matter how much they love you, can't handle being second. Normally that's whatever your significant other is, because it's the truth. You have to become second. There is no way around it. I'm sorry if you don't want to hear it, but if you don't believe me, and look at any interview of a successful MMA fighter's partner, whether it's male or female, and they'll let you know how stressful it is. Look, it just lets you know how stressful it is, and that stress is going to impact how you conduct yourself, because you're going to want to make time for that significant other. You're going to want to make them feel good, and it's like, unfortunately, you can't do that. You don't have enough time to do it, and it's not fair at all. But you're in the business of head trauma, so you got to do what you got to do. It might be a friend that's like, oh, you've been training this whole time, let's just go out and relax, and you have like one drink all time, and that throws your weight cutting cycle off. Something like that. We're not even talking about super negative influence. These are like normal people that love you situations. Obviously, it's going to be the people that pull you into spending your money, using drugs, getting you into a bunch of BS. But we're talking about just normal, everyday situations and good, healthy relationships. Those things are going to affect you. It affects me. It affects them. And a lot of the times I'll have to, as a coach, sit down with someone's partner and play therapist and let them know that at the once this run is over, they have all the time in the world, all the time in the world, hopefully. But if they give everything to you right now, the risk is they can really get hurt.
Right.
It's not like, again, you heard the additive. You cannot play fighting.
Right.
You go on a basketball court, worst thing happens, freak accident, you might blow your ACL, you might mess your shoulder up, and you might have to sit out for 2 years, even if you get a career ender. Worst case scenario in like basketball or something is, again, you have a freak accident, tear a ligament to the point of no return, and your career is just over. That's worst case scenario. Maybe a concussion on top of that. Very rarely do you see someone get something beyond that in the worst case scenario. In fighting, you don't go home. That's the worst case scenario.
Right. 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 It's even more of a risk at lib, so to speak.
Don't make it home. Basic motor skills again.
Right. So
I can hear you.
yeah, you're right. It's like it's such a heightened level of risks for you not to be at your 100%. It's one of those things that the armchair watcher will critique when someone makes it big enough, and we say, well, they're probably distracted by Hollywood or something like that, right? Or some other thing, and you could totally validly see that, if you have 10 billion other things going around you because you're being pulled for marketing, this, that, and but your main goal is still fighting, right? So, you're always gonna kind of question that. This leads me to a question that I think I forgot to tell you about, but I like this question because it talks about injury, right? And when we have injury can give us that setback, and then those negative points come in, and then those easy distractions are easier to reach. Um, in your own experience or experience of your fighters as well, or training consults, with injury, have you found those distractions, and how did you feed your way out of that one?
The injuries is literally the story of my career. Story of my career. Unfortunately, fortunately because I started early, I was able to have like an extremely strong base by the time I was able to compete amongst the higher level guys. But I put a lot of wear on my body. Like I wasn't like soft weight kickbox. I was fighting grown men since I was 13 in the gym every day to prepare myself to become a high level athlete. And it's injuries are probably the number one enders of careers. Not even like violent knockouts. It's like normally in the gym. It's sad. It's sad to see. And I'll just go through a little bit of what I've gone through personally. It's like I had this entire arm from here, my labrum, my anterior pec, at like every part of this part of my pec, down to my bicep, all in here was all destroyed for years. If I got the surgery, it was going to put me out for a while. And they were being honest. We're like, we just don't know how the recovery is going to be because it's so bad. We don't know how you're going to be. So I just fought through it. It got worse. I got the surgery, had to sit out for a while. Then I destroyed my knee, my right knee. And I fight through it. I get a couple fights. I win all my fights. I'm thinking I'm good. Then I destroy my other knee. Now, in a span of 5 years, most of that's been sitting injured and just trying to go through rehab to get it back. And I might fight one time a year. That's old someone's perspective. John Jones became a world champion. He went from amateur to world champion in 5 years.
Right.
Francis Ngannou went from amateur to champion in 5 years. So that's how long that is. I've had to sit on the sidelines for a giant, like I said, we said if it's 10 to 13 years, almost half of my career has just been sitting on the sideline with injuries. And that's the story of a lot of guys. And the problem is, if you don't rehab correctly, as a physical therapist, you know what the consequences are. You're going back on the table. You're going back to sitting down. And now it's going to take even longer.
A little frozen for a sec, but I got you. Yeah, so the I think the thing that people can take home with this, whether they're interested or not in fighting, is the concept that the work that it takes once you're injured, it benefits you more than anything else to get it done right, to rehab correctly, to understand your pain, understand your injury, and
Tip
to
to
go through the
all
right
gym
steps.
owners: have a physical therapist as a part of your staff. Have a physical therapist as a part of your staff. If you do not have a physical therapist as a part of your staff, then you are really doing your fighters, your team, big disservice. Just having someone there, whether it's every other day or every day, just for like right after you work out. Like guys don't even understand like the importance of just like understanding the mobility of their shoulder. Like they don't even know how their shoulder's supposed to move. They don't know how their neck's supposed to move. Like they don't. A lot of fighters just like, oh, my neck is. I went to school physical therapy, investors. I need a doctor so I can practice. But I was just like, I don't have time to keep doing this. And yeah, remember, I don't know if you were around when they did all that, where they was like, oh, you gotta have a doctors to do it now. I was like, yeah, I'm not going back to school. That's done. And yeah, it's like a lot of these guys don't even understand like the difference between like good pain and bad pain. They're like, oh, I have a stinger in my neck. That's like bro fighter talk. I got like a stinger in my neck or in my back. And I'm like, you should probably go get that checked out. And then he realizes his neck was so jacked that the disc, it was like I think it was C2 and 3 started to fuse on its own.
Oh man.
Yeah, like he was always like, I have incredible pain in my neck, but it's just like a stinger I caught from a kid. Like, that's not something. You have neck pain since you were a kid. You should probably get that checked out, bro.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man.
They don't know how to do basic mobility tests. They don't know how to do those type of things. You tell a guy to stick his hand straight up in the air and then rotate his palm forward and stick his hand back. Half of them will get like right here and their back will start shaking.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
They don't
Yeah,
know what to do.
I like you said that because this is the reality, right? If you're at a pro level of any sport, they have a team, and this is what other people need to realize. Whether it's a physical therapist, athletic trainer, these people are a sports conditioning coach, right? These guys are there for this one person or a whole team. They're always there. So if you're gonna put yourself out and train to this degree, you better find that circle to be on your
Mm-hmm.
team because you will not make it. You will not make it.
No.
You have to
And you need
have this
all
team.
three. All three you just listed. All three you just listed. You need all of them, not just a physical therapist,
Right.
because some of them are they only know what we call book. You know, if you've been in the field, you know. Some guys only know book. They haven't been in the field long enough to be like, okay, this deviates a little bit from the model that we see every day in a book
Right.
that we practice on from, whatever our standard is. And they don't might not know how to do it, but long term they know how to put together a regimen and a program for you to recover. They know how to do those type of things. Some athletic trainers are very good at just acute, like the second that happens, they right on top of you. They know exactly when to pull you out. They're used to working with those on-site injuries, and you need, of course, a strength and conditioning coach or something that can guide you through those workouts in a safe manner. You
Right.
need all three of those guys.
Absolutely.
Now, sometimes you might get 2 in 1, hell 3 in 1. I don't really believe in the 3 in 1, but some people do. You need all of those people. Like this is everything. If this even if and people like to complain about the price. It's like, look, it costs to be the boss. It just is what it is. It costs to be the boss. You can't find a top level fighter that doesn't have all three of those, or a top level gym that doesn't have all three of those.
I love that. I love that. I'm gonna
It's
write
so
that down.
important that UFC made an entire institute about
No,
it.
that's a fantastic. I love that quote. It costs to be the boss. It's probably something we all hear at some point in our life, whether it's work or a career or even like just managing your own home, right? It takes money to get what to succeed to another level, and we have to understand that as not just it's money out, but it's an investment in yourself. At the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day, if you really want this, you're going to take that investment and make sure that you're operating at that best of ability when you are in, for your instance, when you're in that ring and you're thinking it's either him or me, or
Yeah.
or her or me, or whichever your scenario for your fight scenario out there, uh, you better have your whole team preparing you for that. You got to be at the same
Mm-hmm.
game. You expect, if you're thinking that person's supposed to be somewhere at your level, that they probably have the same team or more. So you better have your game on when it comes to your team. Cool. Fantastic. I'm definitely gonna use that. Cost to be the boss. I think I'm gonna put that in the back of my gym. Cost to be the boss. All right, that's fantastic, Ed. I probably could talk for a long amount of time. I feel like we can go into another episode of other things for sure. Um,
Always invite me back.
yeah, absolutely. I gotta meet you at the gym one day when I get out of this when I get out of the office and reach out to you and we can talk face to face. But in the meantime, I like to end these podcasts with a slightly lighter but still reflecting upon the bigger message of building a better you, because really that's what this podcast at the end of the day is. How do you structure yourself to get through the distractions, through pain and understanding pain, and have a relationship with pain. It's okay. It's okay to have a relationship with pain. It's not a negative thing. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. Let's say that. So habits can be a way for us to really hinder ourselves from being better at ourselves. So my question for you, is there something that you have as such as like a bad habit that you feel that you could probably be better for to make a better version of yourself?
In general, or just in terms of
Yeah,
athletics?
no.
In general, woo, I'm a therapist when I get. We have a lot of bad habits, bro. I'm gonna try to
Like
keep it
mental
light.
and physical health, man. That's what's good.
Yeah, I know. I think I know this is primarily one of my bad habits, and especially for men, this is like a lot of our bad habits. Is you don't always have to be the problem solver. Don't always have to be the problem solver. like I know like men, we especially guys who are successful and like problem solving orientated. One of our things, we just have to see the world in black and white. It's like, get comfortable with the gray. Get comfortable with you not able to solve the problem. Sometimes you just got to sit there and just let it be whatever it is and be okay with whatever it is. And I know that's a big problem that I have because I'm just like, I've been just dealing with this my entire life. I'm very much like, if my partner comes to me and they have an issue, I'm like, all right, how do we solve it? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, so then why did you come to me if you didn't want me to solve it? Or they're like, Devin, why don't you tell me these things? And I'm like, because you can't help me solve this problem. You don't have any way that solve the problem. They're like, you should still tell me. I'm like, why? You can't help. Why would I just stress you out with it? It's okay. It's okay. You can take the armor off sometimes and just live in the gray. You don't got to be black and white all the time. And I know when some people see this interview with me, my DMs are going to go crazy. I told you. I told you. You're getting it. I told you. Oh, my therapist. Oh, she's going to dig into me.
I think that is fantastic. I didn't expect that nugget, but that was fantastic. That absolutely there. You have to be comfortable. I'm definitely at fault with that. You have to be comfortable with the gray. That is so true because you you can't. You just are not supposed to be able to take care of everything. And that's the thing, I think, for the healthcare workers that are listening, for the coaches that are listening, a lot of times people are coming to us with a problem and we're ideally there to fix it to some way or form or provide a pathway for that. But not everything can be fixed that way. And you may not be that person. And sometimes that person's strictly just there to tell you something because they just need to talk to someone. That's it. You're not there to be the advice. You can say, maybe you should talk to so and so, but it doesn't mean that you have to be the one to fix it. And you have to remove that burden from yourself. You don't need to be that. And so that, you're going to be healthier if you realize that you don't need to be that, because you're just going to burn yourself out. And then you're no good to the other people, to the rest of the people that you can take care of. So that's fantastic.
Everybody go to therapy.
Yeah.
Everybody go to therapy.
That's right. That's right, man. Fantastic.
Especially for men, especially our troubled men, our successful men, where we've had to, claw our way, as like I say, crawl through that broken glass to be everyone else in our field, is to have, our name recognized, to get a certain type of title. It comes at a cost. It comes at a cost, whether it's just simple as empathy. Like, you have to, put the armor up and not worry about, because the reality is you taking food off of someone else's plate to make sure that your plate is full. And that's what you're supposed to do, is take care of, what's around you. But that comes with scars, whether you realize it or not. You repress a lot of things, whether you realize it or not. Facing the world every day, whether you realize it or not. Just is like, go ahead, challenge yourself. Like we say, just being uncomfortable with the pain, because it's painful for a lot of guys, me or you, who are problem orientated, to let that guard down and be told that, a lot of ways you look at things aren't necessarily wrong, but they're not helpful. It's a hard thing to hear, especially if you know it's been a problem with a past partner or another relationship. It's just like, yeah, you not being empathetic or just being black and white or etc. is, an issue, and it's going to bleed over into every other part of your life. Life is a double-edged sword. Your biggest strength is your biggest weakness. So take yourself to therapy. Get yourself, even if it's just a council of friends that are afraid of challenging your ideas. Get that. Can't just live in an echo chamber.
Yes. Fantastic. So that's like a fifth, sixth, and seventh podcast that we could be talking about. All right, man. Listen, I am truly thankful that you had some time to talk with us. This did phenomenally better than I thought it would. And why don't you give us a little bit of information, so if people want to reach out to you to get coached by you, coaching can be on, not only on the level of in person. These days we're discovering that we can call people and learn something, just a little bit of knowledge, even just like I am right now from you, some great nuggets and words of wisdom. How do people get in touch with you?
So the two easiest ways to get in touch with me just are by email or social media. By email, it's fightfirminfo@gmail.com. So fightfirminfo, that's the name of my gym, info@gmail.com. Or you can reach us out to me on Fight Firm on Instagram, Fight Frim Gym, or Devon Williams PT, Philly Fit Coach, as I'm called. So those are the ways you can get in touch with me.
Oh, great, fantastic, and I'll put those in the comment notes too if someone didn't get that. So again, thank you so much, and I want to tell everyone in the audience, thank you for listening. If you like this episode, if you really like to hear what the words we heard from Devon today, and if you want to hear more about him in the future and/or even other things that we talked about here on the podcast, please like the episode, subscribe, and share with your friends. I think there's more knowledge that we can give out there to really expand the wellness of mental and physical health, because it's so intertwined. And until next time, I really hope that you all strive to make those little steps, even the little step matters, to make a better version of you. Thank you. If you have enjoyed this episode of A Better You podcast, please like and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas for future episodes of A Better You. For more information about myself, Dr. Clifford Yun, and my services, head to cliffpt.com. That's CLIFFPT.com.